At this week's edition of The Digital Restaurant. I'm here in Chicago at the National Restaurant Show. It's crazy as always. Thousands of people from all around the world exploring everything to do with food, restaurants, and of course, digital. I'm not going to be spending the entire day here. I'm going over to see my friends at Point B and Rich Faltot, who are opening up their new tech center. So today, on a very special edition of the show, we're going to be talking about what it takes to make the perfect restaurant tech stack. Hi, welcome to the Digital Restaurant. As you can tell, I'm in a slightly different space to usual. I'm not even in California. I'm over in the Windy City in Chicago with my friend Rich here. Rich is a senior principal partner over at Point B, looking after everything restaurants. And he and I have recently been on stage together at Food on Demand, where we were talking about AI. But today we thought it might be good to talk about something a little different, but something very pertinent to most restaurateurs out there. And that is the tech stack. The challenge attributed to every restaurant technologist is how do you really bring the technology together so that it makes sense and it works together in a really seamless fashion. Rich, you might remember at the show, I put up I created it with AI, but there's this Lego block of all these different pieces. And I said, this is the kind of modern day tech stack of a restaurant, unfortunately. And a lot of that was because of just the challenges of having all these different integrations in place. So today, I thought it'd be good just for us to talk about this very challenge. And maybe towards the end, we can talk a little bit about this rather interesting room that you and I are in. But let's talk about something that you guys do all the time, which is helping restaurants talk about RFPs, talking about the challenges of how do they think about the process of going out to market and saying, okay, what do we really want here? What kind of reflections do you have on that?
We're working with restaurant brands all the time that are running into challenges around, I need to modernize my tech stack because I need to increase my throughput in my restaurant. I need to increase the number of transactions that we're seeing. I need to drive my AUVs up. I need to create a better experience for my customer. I need to get more cars through my drive-through. I mean, there's so many things that they're up against, and a lot of them have some legacy technology. It's not integrated the way that they would like. Data is not flowing the way that they would like, and it's making it difficult for them to get the right insights, to schedule people, to order the right product and inventory, and it makes it hard. And so what we do, and one of the things that I'm very proud of the work that we do at Point B, is that we're helping restaurant transform and modernize those tech stacks. And we do that in a variety of different ways. We start by just meeting our client where they are, right? It doesn't have to be at the beginning of some journey. We'll meet them along the way. Maybe they've already started something and it's a big mess. We'll come partner with them then and try to get that mess back on track and actually get them to the outcome that they're looking for. Or if it is at the very beginning, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll start with making sure that they have a strategy and their strategy is aligned to a vision. And if they have neither of those, then we'll help them develop it and we'll help their leadership team get aligned. And then from there, we start to say, okay, once we've got a strategy, then what? We start to look at the tech stack and what is it going to actually take, right, to achieve whatever it is your restaurant is trying to achieve. And what kind of tech stack is that going to require? Then we start to look at, okay, what are the technologies in the space that might make sense? And then in working with the brand, it oftentimes leads to either an RFI or an RFP. And then sometimes it's multiples of those, right? Maybe they need all the tech in their restaurant replaced. We're going through one of those right now. And I compare it to open heart surgery, right? I mean, that's a pretty drastic example. But when you think about
Especially if it goes wrong.
especially if it goes wrong, and when you think about it, if you go and pull a point of sale out of a restaurant, what can you not do? It's really hard to take payment, right? It's really hard to sell your product. It can make things very difficult. Obviously, you can go to manual, but no one wants to do that once you have that routine and everything built that way. What I think we do is we come in and we perform that surgery on a brand very carefully. And we have built systems and processes and methods that, and a whole ecosystem of partners that we work with to help make those as painless as possible. I think there's always some degree of pain. I've never seen one without it, But that's really what we specialize in. And we've done many of them for some of the biggest brands in the world. And we're very, very proud of that work. And we'll continue to do that.
When you think about the process to go through that initial scoping through to the point where it's actually deployed, I mean, what is the length of time typically?
It depends. That's a typical consultant answer.
Very good.
20-year veteran,
Yes, you're very
right?
good at those.
Thank you. But it depends. And I say that.
Give me a range.
Oh, okay. I'll give you a range. So a good range
Yeah.
for one of these could probably be, depending on the size of the brand and what it is that they're replacing and how antiquated everything is and what condition their data's in and all of those things, right? Do they even have the infrastructure in their restaurants to support the modern technology, right? Things like that. But assuming that it's pretty straightforward, it could be 18 months to 3 years, right? It just depends. Some we've done faster. We've done them in as quick as 9 months. But I mean, I would say that the key to going fast is having leadership alignment.
Totally.
If you do not have your leaders aligned, do not think it will be a fast process.
Given the fact that for some instances that it might take 3 years, you're almost having to build the tech stack that's going to be ready, not just for where you are right now, but also where your business is heading. And so therefore part of that challenge has been able to anticipate the different sales channels and the volume going through those
100%.
3, 4, 5 years from now.
Which make this whole process very complex. And we can't be thinking about building tech and implementing tech that's just for today. If we are, it's pretty short-sighted. It has to be able to support that business for 5 or maybe 10 years, which means as you go through the process of selecting those technologies, you have to make sure that the different restaurant technology solutions you're considering have that type of vision and they're thinking that way as well. And so that whatever brand it is that whatever technology company you wind up choosing aligns with the way you're thinking about your technology, how it's going to be supported, the types of features and capabilities that they're thinking about on their roadmap, the challenges you might anticipate for your business, maybe other markets you want to break into, all sorts of different things. And so all of that is part of the process as we go through and help a brand consider what their options are and help them identify the right solution for them. And I always hear people talk about, are we going to find the best in class solution? And I say, no, we're not going to find the best in class. We're going to find what's best for you.
But do you feel the journey to helping a restaurant executive understand what is best for them? I mean, how easy is that period of being able to make sure the scoping is done in a way that is helping? I guess the way I put it in my artificial intelligence role with Invisible is daring them to dream.
Yes.
Daring them to dreams enough that's a little bit scary.
Yes.
How do you find that balance?
It's interesting because as we go through this, sometimes when we're working with a brand that they know they need to do it, they don't know where to start, they don't even know what's out there, we go through some what we call art of the possible workshops, where we bring in our partners or we bring in experts within Point B, and we'll go and sit in a room for a couple of weeks and we'll produce a series of ideas for them to react to. Our partners will, and it's a really fascinating process to go through. And all of a sudden, really the goal is to take whatever kind of mental boundaries they've put on themselves or their business and get that removed so that they can just think freely. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, I didn't even know all these things were possible. And it's a fun process to go through. And I think it's inspiring for brands to like all of a sudden just, because they're oftentimes very myopically focused on their business, trying to do what they need to do.
Sure.
And sometimes when we do this, Carl, we introduce concepts that aren't even in the restaurant industry, and it makes them think even broader. I mean, it might be a concept from Disney or from NASCAR or from a grocery chain or whatever. And all of a sudden, and all of a sudden they can see a parallel and it inspires ideas. It's just a really fun thing to go through. So that's one of the things. And as you see that, you can just watch the light bulbs going off in the minds of all the people that are participating.
So we're obviously seeing a lot of restaurant brands right now talk about recent results. And I think it's fair to say that the industry continues to struggle with transactions, with volume. And yet there are some out there that are doing okay.
Yes.
That are doing pretty good. Kevin Hoffman last weekend just got the Golden Plate Award, right?
He did.
That's interesting. In many ways, a lot of people say, it comes back to that word you just used a moment ago, focus. Actually, not just having tech for tech's sake, but actually having tech that really is core to the brand, the value, and the customer offering. Things you're noticing about the brands that seem to be winning out there versus the generic industry picture right now.
Just some general observations from the base of clients that we are interacting with, and even companies that might not be our clients, but we're having conversations with. I think that's those that are really doing right now in a time where so many other brands are struggling. I would go back to your word focused, but I would point it in one direction, and that is on the customer and the customer's experience. And they have put an amazing amount of effort and energy on being able to consistently deliver the customer experience that they want their customers to have. I think that that has served those brands well. And I think a lot of others are trying to do it. They just might not be as far along in that journey. And I think the tech can either enable making that even better, or it can make that a nightmare. And one of the things that we really try to do is help brands figure out how can we make that customer experience exactly what the brand wants. And that's a hard thing to do.
Do you find that it's really important then to go and just spend some time inside the restaurants with these executives, watching the customer experience, drawing inputs on what you're hearing, what you're seeing, those types of very much front of house experiences, and also if it's back of house tech related? How do you get that customer sent into this whole process? Is there a particular way that Point B takes with this?
Yeah, a couple different things. First thing is anytime we engage with a new brand, I tell the brand right up front, if you choose to do business with us, there is one condition, and that is you got to be prepared to give us a shirt and a hat and put us in your restaurant for 3 days. I want my whole team to experience it, myself included. And we go work the line and we go interact with your customers. We'll go clean your toilets or whatever it is you have us do, wash the dishes. We don't care.
Toughest days of the year.
Toughest day. Oh man, we do put in, I have an appreciation. Yeah. My whole team does for what the folks on the front lines go through every single day. And it is a tough job, which is why we are laser focused on trying to find ways to make it easier and thus create a better experience for the brand, for their customers. And so I would say that's probably the first thing.
All right.
Another thing that we do is we partner with some different companies. One of those companies that we've recently started to partner with is a company called CRI, or Creative Realities. And they introduced us to the concept of a digital safari. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And it's basically experiencing everything through the brand, through the lens of the customer digitally. And it's asking questions about every step in that process, gathering feedback and figuring out what the customer thinks about everything. And it could be the amount of time it takes, the number of clicks, what's presented on a digital menu board, what they're seeing when they go through the drive-through, what it's like to order through DoorDash. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, they go through on this safari, and they're trying to experience every aspect of it with the customer to try to understand what's going on. And we're actually scheduled to do one of those with a brand in June. We're looking forward to that because we do some customer journey mapping and a variety of other things that are along the same lines, but we're going to do this in partnership with them and AWS, which is going to be a really interesting experience.
I love that. One of the folks that I often speak to in this space, I remember this line I said to them once when they asked, you've got this podcast called The Digital Restaurant, you've written these books. What is a digital restaurant? And I often say it's wherever your customers are. And so when you talk about the digital safari, in many ways, for some guests, it's the first experience of a brand,
yes,
through a digital interface without standing in the four walls of the restaurant themselves. So with that in mind, when you're thinking about the tech stack itself, how pivotal is it to the growth strategy of a restaurant group?
I think it's incredibly important. I think sometimes in the past, 10 years ago, it certainly wasn't, not to the degree that it is today. I think COVID was a catalyst for an amazing sense of focus on technology because we had to respond to customers in a whole different way. And it forced restaurant brands to do some things that they hadn't had to do in probably ever, right? And a lot of them
very quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, my loose description of that is many brands had to do it with some bubble gum and Band-Aids and figure out how to cobble things together to make it work. But ultimately they knew they were going to have to put something in place to support engaging with their customers in a different way, and that their legacy tech wasn't going to work. And I mean, and it was everything from the plumbing, right? All the architecture that connected all of these systems to the data, right? We needed to have a common source of data. We can't afford to run around and update data in 14 different places. That's just not a good way to run our business. We had to make it fast and ideally real time or near real time. We had to make these technology stacks easy to integrate with. Gone are the days of the integration taking forever and you only get parts and pieces. It had to be easy and fast and API driven, and giving the different systems that the data that was required so that you could get the insights you need, make the decisions and move. Doing all of that, it's easy to talk through what I just said, but it's certainly hard to do it when you put it into practice.
Yeah. One of the words that you mentioned, the two words that you mentioned early on, was customer obsession.
Yes.
And the importance of that
100%.
when you're going through this journey of retransforming your tech stack. What is the guidance that you give to listeners out there? Whether I know you support a lot of enterprise chains, but
We do.
any restaurant group, whether it be an independent, a mid-sized group, what does it take to be customer obsessed when you're thinking through the tech stack lens?
I think that every single decision you make related to your technology should be, how is this going to help my customer? How is this going to help my team member create a better experience for my customer? And if the technology is not doing that, you may want to consider whether or not that is the right technology for you. And I would just encourage anybody listening to this to shy away from the shiny object and to really zero in on what that technology it needs to be and to drive the outcome of your business more than anything else. Because there's so many out there, and there's so many that are quite capable, and there's so many that are not. And we've worked with many of them. And I would argue that I think some companies think that what they're going in on a particular stack, it's going to all work the way that we hope. And they find out that some of the integrations aren't built quite the way that they were hoping, or maybe something was shown to us during an RFP process that was in a beta testing mode, and it's not really ready for prime time, or such and such, the integration with this partner isn't established. Well, there's a variety of different things that we've seen over the years. And so I would say, be as thoughtful as you can in evaluating those different technologies and make sure that they are aligned with the outcomes your business seeks. And if customer obsession is what you're after, in order to become customer obsessed, you also have to have the technology that is easy for your employees to use. And if it's hard, and if it's complicated, and if it's a zillion steps, people are going to seek shortcuts. They're going to avoid it. They're going to find every reason not to do it the way you want them to. And
it's almost like investing in change management, right?
That
whole journey, because a lot of folks will have a test center or somewhere where they'll go to probably one of their more accomplished managers, and they'll get their feedback on this technology and that technology, but you're not just putting in the technology to that one location where you might have a 20-year veteran of a manager. It's got to go across the board. And that does. It's so super important also in the franchisee environment as well, of course, right? Where you've got your better franchisees, your other franchisees that perhaps are a little bit lukewarm when it comes to tech. So being able to accommodate all those perspectives and build around that lowest common denominator, I think is really critical.
It is 100%. I mean, change, the training associated with it, the way you communicate all of this, the way that you build change champions and a change network as you go through a transformation, probably some of the most critical things that you can do, because quite frankly, you could deploy the greatest technology in the world, and if no one uses it, no one likes it, what good is it to your business? It's like, you have to use it, because if they default back to placing their orders by picking up the phone and calling their favorite supplier instead of doing it through the system, why did you put in that system? For that reason, I would say the change management piece is how you can get your operators, your franchisees, everyone excited about it and on board. And it's really an opportunity to get alignment, get people pumped up so that when that tech finally shows up, they're chomping at the bit to use it, not the opposite. And change is often met with fear or hesitation or whatever. And we'll go through and we'll do change impact assessments where we look at how is the change going to be impacting the business in different areas, and how do people respond to that? what are we going to need to be mindful of as we deploy this technology, and how is it going to be received by all of the people that will use it? And that's a tricky thing. And a lot of times, if the change management isn't right, it can make your deployment very difficult, because one franchisee gets a bad deployment and they tell all the others,
It's like a rotten apple.
and you have a rough day.
Yeah, totally. Hi, Carl here. Just as a quick reminder, please remember to subscribe, like, and give us 5-star for the Digital Restaurant Podcast. Your reviews matter. They really help us make sure that we're providing the right content that's relevant for you. Thanks for listening. Keep on watching. And as always, leave your comments below with questions, thoughts, and recommendations on what we can cover next time. Clearly, this is complex.
It is.
There's a lot of things to take into account. We talked about everything from the outcome focus, the customer focus, the importance of the employee experience, the variety of engagement that occur across the tech stack deployment. So we're stood in this room. It's a very warm room, in case you're wondering, apart the sweat upon my brow. And when you look around, you'll see, I don't know, how many monitors and digital displays do we have?
Roughly 70.
That is a good enough reason, I think it's fair to say. So I don't know when you and the team came up with this idea, first of all, of Point Bistro, the restaurant that doesn't exist, but the idea of having a tech center.
Yes.
I'm here today. Thank you for the kind invite on the launch party of the tech center, where you guys have pulled together some of the more prominent technology systems, certainly supporting enterprise orientated groups out there. And I'm thinking, well, this is interesting. What are you doing? Why have you gone down this process of being able to pull together these 70 screens? What's the journey that you're on here with this, and how are you going to help your clients through it?
About a year and a half ago, we were in the middle of an implementation for one of our restaurant clients, and we were doing some testing, and we were having to log in remotely to their environment, and it was limited, and our access was limited, and we were slowed down in the process. And we had all these test cases we needed to execute to make sure everything was working the way that it was supposed to before we went to pilot. And I was on a call with my delivery excellence leader. Her name's Allison. And we were talking one day, and she was complaining about how we're limited by the number of test cases we can execute. And if only we had our own environment. And I got to thinking, and I was like, well, what if we just built a lab? And Allison was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, what if we got the technology ourselves and we just had our own environment? And that way, when we did a project with a client, we could just test it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty good idea. And so at that point in time, the idea for the Restaurant Technology Innovation Center was launched.
So this is on the 18-month side of the 18-month to 3-year journey.
Yes.
You guys deployed pretty quickly.
Well, here's the thing about it. So we were 6 months away from actually getting the approval to start. And then we spent a year basically building it. And so when I say building it, it was like getting all the partners aligned and getting all the tech delivered and put together and figuring out the data and how we were going to integrate and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, we thought it can't just be, we can do way more than just us test. That's great. We can bring our consultants up to speed on their environment. We can do a lot of really cool things. But what if we take it away from the benefit that it creates for us? We shift the benefit to the brand. And we thought, what if we could use the space to help brands solve some of the challenges that we see them facing every day with inventory, with pricing, with how to use AI or where to point AI, with maybe recipe management, with loyalty. There's so many things that brands are working through. So we thought, what if we could get all the leading enterprise technologies, and I say all loosely, right? But a lot of them.
You're going to need a bigger room.
We're going to need a bigger room. And we put them in a place and we integrate them together. And then we come up with our own kind of concept restaurant so that we can create an example of it, because we don't have all the restaurants' data in the world. So we created our own data from our own concept restaurant, which is where Point Bistro came from. So if you look up at this,
do you want to give us a tour? Show us around.
Let's
go have a look. So
let's do it.
So where are we here?
Right here, we're standing here looking at a series of digital menu boards that are all based on the Point Bistro concept. And if you look over here to the left, you'll see the Point Bistro mural on the wall. And you'll also see another menu. And this is a menu for all the workshops that we will be doing with our partners. And we have about 16 partners currently. We'll show you who those are here in just a second, but they're very recognizable brands. And as you walk through the space, we have Toast and all of their technology. We have the Point Bistro concepts brought right into the Toast system. We have Toast integrated with back of house solutions. We have PAR and all of their technologies, whether it's back of house, PAR payments, PAR POS, PAR everything, PAR punch, all the stuff, their KDS, their kiosk, everything. Then you go in, we've got Q, similar situation there. Q's point of sale, customer facing display, bump bar, kiosk, line buster, all their KDS systems. And we're in the process of getting that integrated with a back of house solution. We've got Aloha, the old NCR system, or maybe the one that everybody's currently using today, and their newer stuff, their cloud version of NCR Voyix. We've got their KDS systems. We've also got Xenial, and we've got a full Xenial tech stack. So we've got their digital menu boards, we've got their KDS system, we've got their customer-facing display, printers, payments, bump bars, and then we've got the KMS system running on Kitchen Armor, the screens there. We've got a system here that allows us to initiate various types of tests within the kitchen or within the Perfect Co system. So this is just a different way of managing food orders that are going to into your kitchen.
It's interesting. You're not just front of house either, are you? Because you've then got all this area, which looks like a lot of data and management information. What's all this about?
This is all the back of house stuff. So all of these represent different back of house solutions. So everything from PAR Ops to Toast back of house to Synergy Suite, Decision Logic, Macromatics, Restaurant 365. We've got all these different technologies. We're in the process of getting a lot of them integrated with our point of sale. So the concept will be, we will have an integrated environment. We'll have a multi-integrated environment in many instances where we may have two back of house connected up to one point of sale, and we have different restaurant concepts so we can feed data to both of them. You can look up here on this screen and you get a view of all the different partners that we're working with. I mean, many of them are world-class. These are the leaders in the space. A lot of them are running on micro-touch hardware. A lot of them are running on other types of touchscreens and hardware. We've also got Esper as an MDM solution so that a lot of these devices can be managed easily remotely. And then we went so far as to lay out a series of MVPs for the Innovation Center so that what I want people to know about this is that what in the room is only the beginning. This for us is like the tip of the iceberg. Here you've got a lot of technology from Tilster, and we've got everything from their freestanding kiosk that feeds into their KDS and then into their order ready board that a customer would see. And everything in here is all operational, everything. And so we didn't put anything in here that we can't actually bring a brand in with our partner, and our partner can walk them through how to use it. We are not trying to sell this technology. I want to put it out to the world. We're not in the business to sell technology. We are in the business of helping restaurant brands achieve what their outcomes are. And that's really what we're focused on. And this is going to be a place where we can do that with them.
There aren't many out there that have gone through the process of having to build not just one tech stack, but several.
Yes.
In many ways now, you've probably got greater empathy, I think.
Oh, man.
Say,
I do.
It's restaurant groups or those executives that you service. Rich, thank you so much for today. For those folks that want to reach out to you, learn more about the company, what's the best way?
The best way to reach us is to go onto our website, and you'll see we've got a variety of industries. Just look for the restaurant industry. We have multiple pages. There's a contact us page on that. There's also a page dedicated to the Innovation Center. You can watch a video talking about some of the things that we've talked about today. And then if you're interested in a workshop, you can actually select one, put in your information, and it'll reach right out to us, and we can engage in a conversation about how we might be able to help your brand.
Great. I hear there's a party happening. So I guess we better go off and enjoy ourselves, but thank you for today. Really appreciate it. And
thank you so much,
good luck.
Carl. This has been a pleasure.
The Digital Restaurant Podcast is available for you to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Watch us, rate us, and subscribe to The Digital Restaurant on YouTube, and follow along on all our social media digital restaurant channels. Thanks for listening.